Mr. Isaac Newton, you can appreciate
the gravity of the situation.
What was that delightful word? Shavity, havity, mavity.
Welcome, everyone. It seems the following paper on gravity, accelerates most flat earthers' beliefs that it does not exist. And they really don't appreciate the gravity of their situation in using this paper to further that belief. Gravity is Only a Theory was published in Reports of the National Center of Science Education, Volume 27, Number 5 through 6, September through December 2007. Gravity, It's Only a Theory. Textbook disclaimers are down but not out. This satirical look at only a theory disclaimers imagines what might happen if advocates applied the same logic to the theory of gravitation that they do to the theory of evolution. All physics textbooks should include this warning label. This textbook contains material on gravity. Universal gravity is a theory, not a fact, regarding the natural law of attraction. This material should be approached with an open mind, studied carefully, and critically considered. The universal theory of gravity is often taught in schools as a fact, when in fact it's not even a good theory. First of all, no one has measured gravity for every atom and every star. It is simply a religious belief that is universal. Secondly, school textbooks routinely make false statements. For example, the moon goes around the earth. If the theory of gravity were true, it would show that the sun's gravitational force on the moon is much stronger than the earth's gravitational force on the moon. So the moon would go around the sun. Anybody can look up at night and see the obvious gaps in gravity theory. The existence of tides is often taken as a proof of gravity, but this is logically flawed, because if the moon's gravity were responsible for a bulge underneath it, then how can anyone explain a high tide on the opposite side of the earth at the same time? Anyone can observe that there are two, not one, high tides every day. It is far more likely that tides were given us by an intelligent creator long ago, and they have been with us ever since. In any case, the fact that there are two high tides falsifies gravity. There are numerous other flaws. For example, astronomers who seem to have a fetish for gravity tell us that the moon rotates on its axis, but at the same time it always presents the same face to the earth. This is patently absurd. Moreover, if gravity were working on the early Earth, then Earth would have been bombarded out of existence by falling asteroids, meteors, comets, and other space junk. Furthermore, gravity theory suggests that the planets have been moving in orderly orbits for millions and millions of years, which wholly contradicts the second law of thermodynamics. Since everything in the universe tends to disorder according to the second law, orderly orbits are impossible. This cannot be resolved by pointing to the huge outpouring of energy from the sun. In fact, it is known that the flux of photons from the sun and the solar wind actually push the Earth away. There are numerous alternative theories that should be taught on an equal basis. For example, the observed behavior of the Earth's revolving around the sun can be perfectly explained if the sun has a net positive charge and the planets have a net negative charge. Since opposite charges attract and the force is an inverse square law, exactly as proposed by the increasingly discredited theory of gravity. Physics and chemistry texts emphasize that this is the explanation for electrons going around the nucleus. So if it works for atoms, why not for the solar system? The answer is simple: scientific orthodoxy. The U.S. Patent Office has never issued a patent for anti-gravity. Why is this? According to natural law and homeopathy, everything exists in opposites. Good and evil, grace and sin, positive charges, negative charges, north poles, south poles, good vibes and bad vibes, and so on. We know there are anti-evolutionists, so why not anti-gravitationalists? It is clearly a matter of the scientific establishment elites protecting their own. Anti-gravity papers are routinely rejected from peer-reviewed journals, and scientists who propose anti-gravity quickly lose their funding. Universal gravity is just a way to keep the grant money flowing. Even Isaac Newton, said to be the discoverer of gravity, knew there were problems with the theory. He claims to have invented the idea early in his life, but he knew that no mathematician of his day would approve his theory. So he invented a whole new branch of mathematics called fluxions just to prove his theory. This became calculus, a deeply flawed branch having to do with so-called infinitesimals which have never been observed. Then, when Einstein invented a new theory of gravity, he too used an obscure bit of mathematics called tensors. It seems that every time there is a theory of gravity, it is mixed up with fringe mathematics. Newton, by the way, was far from a secular scientist, and the bulk of his writings is actually on theology and Christianity. His dabbling in gravity, alchemy, and calculus was a mere sideline, perhaps an aberration best left forgotten in describing his career and faith in a creator. To make matters worse, proponents in gravity theory hypothesize about mysterious things called gravitons and gravity waves. These have never been observed, and when some accounts of detecting gravity waves were published, the physicists involved had to quickly retract them. Every account of anti-gravity and gravity waves quickly elicits laughter. This is not a theory suitable for children. And even children can see how ridiculous it is to imagine that people in Australia are upside down with respect to us, as gravity theory would have it. If this is an example of the predictive power of the theory of gravity, we can see that at the core there is no foundation. Gravity totally fails to explain why Saturn has rings and Jupiter does not. It utterly fails to account for obesity. In fact, what it does explain is far outweighed by what it does not explain. When the planet Pluto was discovered in 1930 by Clyde Tombaugh, he relied on gravitational calculations. But Tombaugh was a Unitarian, a liberal religious group that supports the theory of gravity. The modern-day Unitarian Universalists continue to rely on liberal notions and dismiss ideas of anti-gravity as heretical. Tombaugh never even attempted to justify his gravitational calculations on the basis of Scripture, and he went on to be a founding member of the Liberal Unitarian Fellowship of Las Cruces, New Mexico. The theory of gravity violates common sense in many ways. Adherents have a hard time explaining, for instance, why airplanes do not fall. Since anti-gravity is rejected by the scientific establishment, they resort to lots of hand-waving. The theory, if taken seriously, implies that the default position of all airplanes is on the ground. While this seems true for Northwest Airlines, it appears that JetBlue and Southwest have a superior theory that effectively harnesses forces that overcome so-called gravity. It is unlikely that the law of gravity will be repealed given the present geopolitical climate, but there is no need to teach unfounded theories in the public schools. There is indeed evidence that the theory of gravity is having a grave effect on morality. Activist judges and left-leaning teachers often use the phrase, "what goes up must come down," as a way of describing gravity, and relativists have been quick to apply this to moral standards and common decency. Finally, the mere name, Universal Theory of Gravity, or Theory of Universal Gravity, the secularists like to use confusing language, has a distinctly socialist ring to it. The core idea of to each according to his weight, for each according to his mass, is communistic. There is no reason that gravity should apply to the just and unjust equally, and the saved should have relief from such universalism. If we have universal gravity now, then universal healthcare will be sure to follow. It is this kind of universalism that saps a nation's moral fiber. It is not even clear why we need a theory of gravity. There is not a single mention in the Bible, and the patriotic founding fathers never referred to it. Overall, the theory of universal gravity is just not an attractive theory. It is based on borderline evidence, has many serious gaps in which it claims to explain, is clearly wrong in important respects, and has social and moral deficiencies. If taught in the public schools by misdirected educators, it has to be balanced with alternative, more attractive theories with genuine gravamen and spiritual gravitas. By Ellery Shimp. This version might differ slightly from the print publication. It's important to note that this paper came out in 2007. How much of what was heard in it do we hear from flat earthers now and have heard since 2014? Pretty much everything in it. Sadly, the word satirical is glossed over, and this is taken literally by flat earthers like Kaleb, KCDINDUSTRY, who used it in his debate against FTFE on Jeranism's channel a month ago. Let's take a look at FTFE confronting Kaleb with his use of this satirical paper, how Kaleb chooses to not address that fact, a bit of rebuttal from both, and their final words.
Oh, I did want to say one thing. Kaleb, you did one of my favorite things that flat earthers do. And during your intro, you presented a satire article about gravity. And I just wanted to ask you why you did that.
What article?
The whole gravity is only a theory thing that you put up. That's a satire article, dude. You do realize that.
Hey, buddy, you realize that there's a difference between the theory of gravity and the law of gravitation, right?
No.
Wow.
Don't change the subject, right? You put up a satire article, and I want you to realize this, okay? I'm going to show my it so everyone can see. This is what good old Kaleb brought up. Is this gravity? It's only a theory thing. Where it says is the universal theory of gravity is often taught in schools as fact, when in fact it's not even a good theory. Blah blah blah. Right?
Can I share screen?
1 second. Go ahead. Finish.
If you look here, this satirical look at only a theory. Okay, this entire article is a satire article making fun of people that try to disprove evolution by saying it's only a theory.
Cool. I'm about to debunk what you're saying. So my turn.
Hold on, I'm still talking right now. This entire thing that you presented to say, look, Google shows is a satire.
I'm going to give him a minute. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Please.
And I realize that. It's a satire article. That's what this conversation is about. Nothing else. You presented a satire article, Kaleb. Are you aware of that?
Okay, you got a minute?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, Kaleb, go ahead. And you'll have to unmute. I think I muted you.
Allow me to share screen, please.
Yep.
Is it up?
Yep.
Oh. Oh, what does that say? Is gravity a theory? Yeah. I don't think I need to say anything more. I can see the rest of my time.
Okay.
Oops, and one of those sources, Kaleb, was a satire article.
Is gravity a theory, Craig?
No, there is a theory of gravity.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done, dude.
This one is something that flat earthers struggle with all of the time, right? Gravity isn't a theory. There is the theory of gravity, which is but gravity isn't a theory as much as music isn't a theory. I studied music theory, all right? I took a driving theory test. There is a theory of electrical conductivity, all right? But these things aren't just theories. The theory is the explanation of the thing. The theory of gravity contains all of our knowledge of gravity, but that's not the same thing as the colloquial usage of the word gravity. If you are saying gravity is a theory because there's the theory of gravity, then you're also claiming that music is a theory and driving is a theory.
Any person of logical thinking abilities and able to look at this conversation without bias will see that Craig did not substantiate anything during the entirety of this this painful hour and 45 minutes of hearing him regurgitate the same shit he says every single debate. It was terrible. He came in, did exactly what I thought. He said, oh, let's use the scientific method, and then skipped many parts of the scientific method, which is testing. You can't just and he also said that observation and tests are synonymous. Making observations is completely separate from doing tests on different things with apparatuses. Observing and testing is not the same thing. The Earth is not in motion. The Earth is not convexing away from every observer at their tangent. The Earth is not moving. Space does not exist. The Earth is a level topographical plane. We exist at the center of all creation because necessitated by every observation that we make of the celestial sky and the cosmic microwave background, hence the axis of evil and the Copernican principle. Thank you.
A few moments later.
Any person of logical thinking abilities and able to look at this conversation without bias will see that Craig did not substantiate anything during the entirety of this this painful hour and 45 minutes of hearing him regurgitate the same shit he says every single debate. It was terrible. He came in, did exactly what I thought. He said, oh, let's use the scientific method, and then skipped many parts of the scientific method, which is testing. You can't just and he also said that observation and tests are synonymous. Making observations is completely separate from doing tests on different things with apparatuses. Observing and testing is not the same thing. The Earth is not in motion. The Earth is not convexing away from every observer at their tangent. The Earth is not moving. Space does not exist. The Earth is a level topographical plane. We exist at the center of all creation because necessitated by every observation that we make of the celestial sky and the cosmic microwave background, hence the axis of evil and the Copernican principle.
Yeah, so Kaleb did demand that this conversation be based on the scientific method. Yet he didn't like it when I used the scientific method. I did the experiment. I did the testing. I talked about it several times. Whether he agrees that it's an experiment or not, it is completely irrelevant. Making an observation at a particular time is an experiment. You make a prediction that X will happen at X time, and then the experiment is setting up and observing if that thing happens. This is just how science works. The majority of science is kind of doing that basic kind of scientific work. And all Kaleb did was constantly say that I didn't substantiate it, I didn't show this, I didn't show that, when the experiments are specifically set up to test the predictions. If you're not using a model to test predictions on, then you're not doing science. It's as simple as that. And you're basically irrelevant to the conversation if you aren't going to do that. It doesn't matter what you say. That's the wonderful thing about science and physics, is it doesn't care about your opinion. It is what it is.
Giza Santu says, I was globe earth my whole life until I saw Craig's arguments. Now I'm 100% flat.
Let's go.
Giza.
Yes.
Giza. All right. I'll give you guys final words. You want to start, Craig? Go ahead.
Thank you very much for having me on Journalism. I do appreciate it. And thank you for the conversation, Kaleb. I'm glad that we've actually managed to get this conversation. I do think it's an important conversation, and I would actually like to have more conversations with you.
All right. And Kaleb, any final words?
Everyone here is special. Everyone here was divinely created by an engineer to this universe. We are set at the center of all of the universe. Everything rotates around us. We are extremely special. Hence why this topic is the most important thing to me in the entire world. We need to teach children that they are special, that they are not an artifact of evolution from monkeys and lizards turning into humans. Everyone needs to realize that we occupy a special position in the universe, and the fact that the Earth is a level topographical plane and we see orbs in the sky rotating around us, we are separate from them, there's no correlation to them, would suggest that we do have a divine creator, and that we should not even see atheism as a valid standpoint. Everybody should realize behind the cyclicalness of the cosmos, of the stars realigning every 365 days, the moon phasing every 28 days, the sun rising for 12 hours and setting for 12 hours, depending on where you live. Obviously, it's different, the amount of daylight and nighttime that you get. But the fact that everything that we see around us is completely cyclical, it suggests that we live in a low entropy universe and directly suggests the existence of a creator.
It does not surprise me that Kaleb is using intelligent design to explain why he thinks the universe exists. After all, he seems to have the usual flat earth traits like him being narcissistic, being overconfident, willfully ignorant, anti-science, anti-Semitic, etc., etc., etc. One look at his Twitter is quite revealing. Anyway, enough about Kaleb. I will link the debate in the description if you want to watch it. Please remember to do all the YouTube-y things like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell and click all to get notified of any new content I upload. Thank you for watching. You are all awesome. See you in the next video.